In the early 1950s, a shadow fell over Guatemala. The United States, driven by Cold War paranoia and corporate interests, launched a covert operation codenamed PBSuccess. This operation aimed to overthrow the democratically elected government of President Jacobo Arbenz Guzman. Arbenz, a progressive reformer, threatened the dominance of the American-owned United Fruit Company and was labeled a communist threat by the U.S. government. PBSuccess was a clandestine effort by the CIA to destabilize Guatemala and install a pro-American regime. The operation involved a multifaceted strategy of propaganda, paramilitary action, and diplomatic pressure. It marked a turning point in Guatemala in history and had long-lasting repercussions for the country and the region. The operation was shrouded in secrecy, with the American public largely unaware of their government's clandestine activities. However, the ramifications of PBSuccess would be felt for decades to come, casting a long shadow over Guatemala's political landscape and leaving an indelible mark on the country's history. The Cold War formed the backdrop of Operation PBSuccess. The United States, locked in an ideological struggle with the Soviet Union, viewed any leftist movement in Latin America with suspicion. Arbenz's land reforms, which challenged the United Fruit Company's vast holdings, were perceived as a communist threat. The United Fruit Company, a powerful corporation with significant influence in Washington, lobbied the U.S. government to protect its interests. The company portrayed Arbenz's policies as a direct attack on American capitalism and a stepping stone for Soviet expansion in the region. The U.S. government, already wary of communist influence in its backyard, was receptive to the United Fruit Company's concerns. The Cold War climate provided a convenient pretext for U.S. intervention in Guatemala. The fear of communism spreading throughout Latin America fueled the Eisenhower administration's decision to support the CIA's covert operation. Operation PBSuccess was orchestrated by a group of individuals within the CIA and the U.S. State Department. Allen Dulles, the director of the CIA, and his brother John Foster Dulles, the Secretary of State, were key architects of the operation. They viewed Arbenz as a threat to U.S. interests and were determined to remove him from power. To carry out their plan, CIA recruited and trained a small force of Guatemalan exiles, led by Colonel Carlos Castillo Armas. Armas, a disgruntled former military officer, was chosen to lead the invasion of Guatemala and overthrow Arbenz. The CIA provided Armas and his forces with weapons, funding, and logistical support. The CIA also launched a sophisticated propaganda campaign to discredit Arbenz and undermine his government. The agency used radio broadcast leaflets and planted news stories to portray Arbenz as a communist dictator and his government as illegitimate. This propaganda blitz aimed to sow dissent among the Guatemalan population and create a climate of fear and instability. In June 1954, CIA-backed forces led by Castillo Armas invaded Guatemala from neighboring Honduras. The invasion force was small, but it enjoyed the advantage of U.S. air support. The CIA orchestrated a bombing campaign against Guatemala City, targeting key government buildings and military installations. Faced with the superior force and fearing a wider conflict, Arbenz resigned on June 27, 1954. He sought asylum in the Mexican embassy, ending his presidency and ushering in a new era of authoritarian rule in Guatemala. The CIA's covert operation had succeeded in toppling the democratically elected government. With Arbenz removed from power, Castillo Armas entered Guatemala City and declared himself president. The United States quickly recognized his regime, providing it with economic and military aid. The coup marked the beginning of decades of civil war and repression in Guatemala.